There's a big demand deficit, to put it simply, and its investment is down because real estate households are not feeling so confident. They really should, come out with a heavy stimulus package, and that has been wanting for some time.
So let me ask you: we had the third plenum, and nobody realistically was expecting any sort of explicit stimulus to come out of that, because that's just not what happens at the third plenum. We had the Politburo; that's over. Nothing there as well. When are we likely to see what the market wants and what the economy seems to need?
Well, other people, the other camp would say, well, at least it's still talking about reforms and it's not going, further, let's say, left, and, things are still progressing. They're focusing a lot on high tech and innovation. It's just the strategy is different. They're looking at the long-term trajectory and the transition of the Chinese economy, where I think the right medicine is really short-term. They're not focused on that.
So, first of all, Keyu, it's great to meet you. I actually read your book when it came out, so congratulations on that. My question, I just want to pick up on what Martin said, which is that our forecast for GDP growth for China this year was 5, now it's 4.9 because of the weaker second quarter numbers. But the key point is the composition of that growth is kind of imbalanced. It's very significantly led by exports, and as you just said, very significant deficit in domestic demand. So just following up on that, what sort of policy do you think is required, or is there a policy mistake being made by leaning into manufacturing, and there certainly is the appearance of excess capacity at a time when there's going to be pushback globally from China taking market share in whether the U.S., Europe, or even Turkey's put export bans or import bans on EVs. So how do you feel that sort of the policy mix is, and what can China do to develop the domestic demand side of things?
On the other hand, as Riley said, the composition of growth, GDP growth, has changed significantly in the last 10 years. Investment has become less and less of a contributor to GDP. But, the China model has always been very weak on raising personal consumption, raising living standards and welfare, and focused on the supply side. And I think the issue right now is they're doing austerity in times of downturn, really. The government cutting wages, and then, raising taxes and government spending, not compensating. I mean, they shouldn't be thinking about debt issues, at least at the central level. They should be, relieving the local government debt issues and, spending more, really. They are spending, but they're spending on new infrastructure and things with the digital economy. I think that is actually the bright spot, just to pivot a little bit. The kind of things they're doing on the digital economy, the data, the ownership, the laws, and the policies the institution I've been speaking to, vastly kind of digitizing the economy, setting up the infrastructure, that is way ahead of the U.S. and any other country. So they're very good at that kind of planning, but they need a short-term boost. And so one policy would be, simply consumption vouchers and really stimulating, consumption on the household level, but they have a technical challenge, which is how can you distribute to the people that need it the most, which is the people living in remote areas and people with the highest marginal propensity to consume. They don't right now have a channel to reach these people yet.